Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Fire and Ice podcast. Today is Thursday, September 29th. My name is Chris Crawford. I'm with my good buddy Drew Silva. Drew, welcome to the final weekend of the MLB season. And I'm sorry I said the MLB, but I'm going to do it anyway. Are you excited about it?
Well, when you're referencing
Yeah,
a
I know.
noun
I know.
after
I
the
know.
MLB season,
Thank you.
okay,
Thank you, Drew.
this is going to be
Thank
a,
you so
a writing
Yeah.
workshop for you.
I just am so used to anytime I hear the word the and MLB, I'm so triggered now. I feel like I have to explain myself or have Drew give me a vocabulary lesson. We're going to be taking a look at some fantasy plays today. We're going to look at some stacked lineups. We're going to look at some pitching options and maybe some sneaky options using the contrarian edge optimizer. But first, Drew, weather was a big factor yesterday. I don't know if you saw Skip Schumacher throwing an absolute deserved fit as well because of how that situation was handled between the Marlins and Mets. Is there a chance for anything like that happening today? And also, what are we looking at injury-wise?
It's with the Mets again. Phillies at Mets is going to be a likely postponement, is what the forecast is saying. Like an 80% chance of rain from 7:10 Eastern on. I guess they could do a matchup for a doubleheader on Saturday or Sunday. It's not a very important season or series. Like the Phillies are secure in their spot. The Mets are obviously done. But anyway, yeah, and then over to the injury concerns. Luis Ariz continues to be limited by that left ankle sprain that he suffered last Tuesday and then aggravated on Saturday. He started just two of the Marlins' last 7 games, right in the heart of their chase for the third NL wildcard spot. So it's obviously something pretty serious, and he remains a question mark leading into the Marlins' final series of the season at Pittsburgh, which could be a fruitful matchup. With the Cubs having to face the NL Central champion Brewers, the Marlins are fighting for their lives and having to deal with a choppy City Field and an injured Luis Ariz. Paul Goldschmidt was held out of the Cardinals lineup Wednesday and Thursday in Milwaukee due to back tightness. It sounds like he's just being saved up to play most of this final series back at home in St. Louis against the visiting Reds. Luken Baker has gotten the fill-in nods at first base over their last 2 games. Chris Bryant was out for a third straight game Thursday against the Dodgers because of an illness. It doesn't seem like anything serious, but he's been limited to DH and first base duties over the last few weeks. So maybe this has something beyond the illness. It might have something to do with the plantar fasciitis that he's battled all year and going back to last year. Going to want to check where he is in that lineup if he is in the lineup Friday at Coors Field. More on that game later. The Rockies are wrapping things up with a 3-game set at home against the visiting Twins. And then Chas McCormick missed the Astros series finale against the Mariners on Wednesday after getting hit in the back with an Andres Munoz fastball on Tuesday night, which doesn't sound very comfortable. It's just a bruise. He should be fine. He's been incredible in the second half, though. A fantasy scoring binge, 911 OPS with 14 homers, 10 steals since the All-Star break. And then one more, Nolan Shanuel of the Angels, who's gotten on base in all 27 games that he's played in so far. But the Angels have kept him out since Monday due to knee tightness. Kind of went down on the ground with that knee injury that kind of listed as day-to-day going into the Angels' final series against the A's, which I think we're both going to be mentioning a bit later in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame we only get to talk about the A's on a different side of things for only 3 more days. But yeah, we definitely will be targeting some stuff. Before we get into some lineup stacks, before we get into some pitchers to use, we're going to once again recommend picking up the Contrarian Edge Optimizer. It's an awesome tool. It gives you a great DFS edge for not just baseball, but for the NFL slate, for the NBA slate that's going to be coming up. It's helped us a lot. You can check it out at fantasysportslogic.com. You can also find it at sportstopia.io, and make sure you're checking out Sportstopia.io as well. We have a ton of great stuff up there. We have prize pick stuff. We have daily fantasy stacks over there as well to take a look at. Cannot recommend it enough. We're a little bit biased, but we would recommend it anyway. So let's take a look at those stacks. And Drew, I think we both are targeting a couple of teams in this one, and we only get 3 more days to take advantage of friendly confines. I think you got one of those teams going today.
Yeah, it's me. My name is Drew Silva, and I'm targeting a visiting offense at Coors Field.
Hi, Drew.
Really, I'm a Coors Field addict.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Twins clinched the AL Central title a full week ago, but I'm rolling with them. I want Donovan Solano, Eduard Julien, Matt Wallner, and Ryan Jeffers in this one. They're going to want to shift back into go mode over the final weekend of the regular season to prepare for a best of 3 wild card series that'll begin on Tuesday. It's going to be a quick turnaround for some of these teams, especially those that have to travel, especially those that have to use their frontline starters in this final series of the regular season. The Twins don't, but I expect a lot of their regular bats to be in there. Fairly representative lineup out there for the Twins on Friday at Colorado. I'm going to stack mostly right-handed bats, only one lefty in Matt Wallner against Rockies left-hander Ty Block, who has surrendered a 349 batting average and a 941 OPS to right-handed hitters this season. That's right, a 349 average and 941 OPS against Ty Black. And this is in 258 plate appearances, so it's not exactly a small sample size. Solano and Julien could be batting 1-2 at the top of the Twins lineup, and I like the power potential that Wallner and Jeffers can offer more toward the heart of the Minnesota batting order. Even if you don't play this stack exactly, there are other ways to build it other than the 4 names that I threw out there. But I'd grab at least 1 or 2 Twins from this game. It's a tasty matchup against a bad pitcher as the Twins put a stamp on their regular season and move into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too about like going in, getting right. This is a chance for this offense to probably playing against either the Astros or Mariners to be, on the ready. Of course, you can't really simulate the offensive surroundings that are Coors Field, but it is still something that I think that's a really good point. You should see regulars playing in those games. I'm going to go with the Yankees against the Royals, and look, Jordan Lyles. Jordan Lyles has been among, if not the worst pitchers in baseball, but he's coming off a start against the Astros where he threw 5 scoreless innings. That just makes me even more excited to be using somebody against Jordan Lyles because he ain't doing that again. There's no way Jordan Lyles is throwing 5 scoreless innings. Yes, the Yankees lineup is flawed, but there are some quality players here against a pitcher who has a 6.24 ERA and needed 5 scoreless innings to lower it to 6.24. I'm actually a little disappointed, Drew. I really thought Jordan Lyles might be the 20-game loser this year. It's something that I'm not rooting for Jordan Lyles to have lack
you just
of
want
success.
a 20-game loser. Yeah.
I want a 20-game loser. I really want a 20-game loser. If Jordan Lyles has to be it, so be it. I appreciate Jordan Lyles throwing 5 scoreless innings as my Mariners fight for their playoff lives, but I don't think that he's going to be able to provide that kind of success on Friday night. So I'm going to go with a stack of Austin Wells, DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, and Aaron Judge. Yeah, those aren't exactly the cheapies, although Austin Wells is still fairly priced as a rookie. But I do think those guys have a chance for real success against one of, again, if not the worst starting pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, Estevan Florial sticks out too. He's been in the lineup pretty regularly with Everson Pereira being bad and dealing with some nagging injuries.
Yeah.
Like there are some cheap options in that Yankees lineup if you want to build it around, Judge and LeMahieu hitting more toward the top of the order.
Right.
I like that play. Yeah, targeting Jordan Lyles with the Yankees at Kansas City makes a lot of sense. My second stack is going to be the Angels versus the Athletics. Zach Neto, Eduardo Escobar, Randall Grichuk, Brandon Drury. Here's a real thriller of a game, Angels versus A's to round out the season. What did Lee Corso got in trouble for saying last week, like previewing the Washington State-Oregon State game? He said the Nobody Wants Us Bowl.
Yes.
It was interpreted that he said the Nobody Watches Bowl, and then Washington State's coach had a field day with that. But it was the Nobody Wants Us Bowl because they're the last 2 teams standing in the Pac-12, now the Pac-2. Whatever. Like getting mad at 80-year-old former coaches was a thing last Saturday. I don't know if you noticed. Whatever stirs your drink, whatever motivates your team, I suppose. But yeah, nobody's paying attention to this Angels A's series. And I like that from a DFS perspective. Any play in this game is going to be a contrarian play. I'm going to stack all righties here against A's left-hander Ken Waldichuk. Actually, 3 righties and a switch hitter, but you get the idea. Waldichuk actually pitched pretty well last time out against the Tigers, but he has a 5.29 season ERA, and a 1.54 whip, and he's been bad against both righties and lefties.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily trust the Angels offense, but if you want to build in a narrative here, they can finish on a positive note against a minor league Oakland outfit before heading into the offseason, an offseason that's likely to see Shohei Ohtani move on and on a blockbuster free agency deal that he signs with some other team. Mike Trout possibly traded. Trout's saying all the right things that he wants to stay, but it wouldn't shock me if the Angels find a deal for him. That's a massive contract, and they have a lot of rebuilding to do. It's going to be a long winter for the Angels. Maybe fit in 3 more positives this weekend against a bad A's team. I just need some headgear now, like Corso, maybe some Angels wings.
Yeah.
We need to talk to the props department and see what our budget is on that. But
Well,
yeah, Neto, Escobar, Grichuk, Drury. Let's ride with those 4.
I like it a lot. And yeah, this is a series that, this is I think the difference between fantasy baseball and reality, I think sometimes is that there's a way to take advantage of that situation, even if absolutely nobody is paying close attention. It's funny you bring up the both of those teams though, and we'll talk about another option a little later. It'll be weird to see, like, let's say that Shohei Ohtani is gone, and let's say that Mike Trout gets traded. Who has a worse lineup on paper to start next year, Oakland or Los Angeles?
Ooh. Probably. I mean, obviously, there's a lot to be determined, but
Sure.
I don't really see why the Angels would all of a sudden go spend money on free agent hitters. And some of the talent they've brought up this year is really disappointed, like
Yeah,
Kyron Paris and Jordan Adams.
sure.
Joe Adell has had flashes, but again, can he put it all together?
Sure.
I'm gonna say Oakland will be the more intriguing offense.
Yeah.
At least Zach Geloff is probably going to be a top 100 pick or top 120 pick in
Sure.
season-long fantasy baseball. And then, I don't know, we'll see, if Brent Rooker and Seth Brown are still around. Esteury Ruiz could be a top 100 pick. He's going to maybe finish close to 80 stolen bases, even though he's kind of been a part-time player in the second half.
Yeah.
In terms of fantasy, Oakland is going to be a more intriguing offensive team and perhaps even pitching team than the Angels should tank, though, right? That's the direction they kind of have to go.
Oh yeah, they need to rebuild. Like that, you just can't. It would take too much of once, and I don't care about the money. Artie Moreno is going to be just fine. It's about the fact that you can't replicate what you're going to be losing on top of the holes that you already have. This is a 90 loss team. If they were a quality baseball team, you're not losing 90 games. I'm sorry. You could talk about injuries. You can talk about everything. Losing 2 guys should not cause you to be a 90 loss team. They need a full head-on rebuild, and it could be a long one. By the way, we're still calling them Oakland, and we're hoping we can call them Oakland next season. We are taking that stand. I'm going to go with the Cubs against the Brewers. Colin Ray on the mound for the Brewers has pitched pretty well as of late, but he hasn't gone 5 innings since the start of August. So I'm going to go with the Cubs against that bullpen. This is a must-win game for the Cubs. They are going to be highly motivated, and I think there's some nice cheap options that you can play in this one as well. I'm going to go with Yan Gomez, Nico Horner, Ian Happ, and Seiya Suzuki. Those aren't like the cheapest of guys, but they're very cost-effective against a Colin Ray who's probably only going to go 3 or 4 innings, and then a Milwaukee bullpen. And look, Milwaukee has nothing to play for. They are locked into the 3 seed. They certainly want to go in with some momentum, I suppose. Whether momentum is a real thing or not, so be it. But I do think that there is definitely some chances for offensive success tonight for the Cubs in a game that they absolutely have to win.
Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be Brandon Woodruff on Friday for the Brewers, Freddie Peralta on Saturday, but the Brewers announced on Thursday that neither of those guys are going to pitch in this series. So
Right.
that's something to keep in mind, obviously, going into this final weekend is Atlanta's doing the same thing. They're not going to throw their top starters. So you can attack those. Like I would attack Colin Ray. Adrian Hauser is going to pitch in place of Peralta in Sunday's regular season finale. They haven't announced a starter for Saturday's wedge game. It's probably going to be like a bullpen day. The Brewers don't care. They're locked into their position.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, the Cubs hopefully could take advantage of that. It stands to reason that they would, but baseball's a weird game.
I want to ask you a question before we get into these pitchers things. I meant to ask you it earlier. I want you to ask me to answer what I'm supposed to do as a Seattle Mariner fan here. The Mariners are 1 game back of the Houston Astros. They are 3 games back of the Texas Rangers. If the Mariners win the next 3 games and Houston goes 2-1, they will all tie for the American League West, and Seattle will win the division. If the Mariners go 3-0 or whatever, and Houston goes 1-2, then they tie. Then it's the Seattle Mariners tie for the wild card. What I'm asking you is, should I root for the Mariners to win the next 3 games and the Diamondbacks to win 2 so that I can get that division title, or do I just want to get in the postseason?
It's a lot of math for what is it? 8:30 my time. I think you should want the division title.
I do.
Not that it like does it greatly improve. You just want first of all, you just want them to get into the playoffs, but the way this all works out is like they don't control their own destiny, but they control a large part of their destiny where, hey, you go out and win, you're the ALS champions, and you have what would that be? The 2 seed, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. On the AL side of the bracket. Yeah. And so, man, there's in that AL West, there's so much to be decided. I've been pretty focused on the NL wild card because it's just like a mess, and I like to watch a train wreck.
Sure.
And that's largely what that's been. But yeah, there's a lot to be decided in the American League West with only 3 games left to play. I'm rooting for your Mariners, man.
Thank you.
I've become an Orioles fan and a little bit of a Mariners fan since the Cardinals bowed out in about, I don't know, early May.
Totally fair. That I just think that's fascinating because like it means that I'm rooting for the Astros to win baseball games, like as the Mariners are a game back of that team. So it's a little bit weird, but I'd really like to win that division and have the bye and have some home games, but we shall see. All right, Drew, who is the first starting pitcher that you are using in this Friday slate?
I'm going to go with John Means versus the Red Sox. This will be in Baltimore. Means flirted with a no-hitter last time out against the Guardians. Didn't allow a hit until Andres Jimenez took him deep for a solo shot with 2 outs in the bottom of the 7th inning. Means allowed just 3 total runners to reach base in that game among the 25 batters he faced. And that was just his 3rd major league start since returning on September 12th from Tommy John surgery, and then he suffered a back injury in May that prolonged his rehab. But he has a 2.60 ERA in 17 and a third innings so far. Hasn't generated many strikeouts, but it's a small sample size. He's not a huge like whiff generator anyway, but he can do all right in the strikeouts department, better than he's done so far. Facing a beatable Red Sox lineup at home in front of what should be a raucous crowd at Camden Yards, celebrating an AL East title, which they officially clinched on Thursday. They also clinched the best record in the American League. So they've got home field. They've got the top spot going into the playoffs, feeling really good about themselves. And this will be just the second start at home for Means in the more pitcher-friendly dimensions that came with the drastic deepening of the left field wall there at Camden Yards. Or I guess it'd be his 3rd start since he did pitch at home once last year before the Tommy John surgery. And those dimension changes happened before the 2022 season. But nonetheless, like his profile fits really well there right now. And he's suddenly a big part of the Orioles' plan steering into the playoffs. We could see something pretty special in Means' final regular season start. I'm looking forward to watching that game. And the Orioles might have a hangover lineup. I wouldn't necessarily target many of their bats in this one after Thursday's clincher, but Means needs to get working. He needs to build that workload. I don't see them pulling him super early. If he can go 7 innings, if he can go 8 innings, I think they'll let him do that and save their bullpen, which has been a little bit more wobbly lately. And then, obviously the Red Sox aren't playing for anything and aren't very good anyway. I really like the way this kind of game script plays out, where Means is walking off the mound to a standing O, and I'm feeling really good about the lineup that I put together with my Twins at Coors Field stack and John Means as my starter.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. And look, even if they are putting out a hangover lineup, to be honest with you, they're so deep, Baltimore is, that those guys are going to give them a chance for wins anyway. Like this is, if there was 40-man roster type stuff, sure, that would be a little bit scary. But because of the fact that, you're only going to be benching 2 to 3 guys, it's still a pretty good team. I like that call a lot. I'm going to go with Zach Gallen against the Astros, and it's a little bit of a risky one just because Zach
That's with
Gallen,
your
I don't
heart
know
or
if
with your head.
yeah, that's the thing here. It's that part of it too. But if you've taken a look, Drew, at his last few starts, there's been a lot of good and there's been a lot of bad for Zach Gallen.
Mhm.
This is I'm going to give you just his last 5 starts: 5 1/3 innings of 5-run baseball, and a complete game shutout of the Cubs. 5 innings of 6-run baseball, 5 innings of 4-run baseball, 6 shutout innings against the Yankees. Like there's no in between right now with Zach Gallen, and that's kind of extended through the second half of the season. He's seen his ERA fluctuate quite a bit, as high as 3.41, as high as 3.60, excuse me, as low as 3.1. Was in that Cy Young conversation for a while. I'm going to take the chance with Gallen because these are the biggest games for the Diamondbacks in a very long time. And I do think that this is going to be, I keep talking about motivation. I've talked about it all week. I think that does matter here. The Astros lineup has been okay. The fact that McCormick might not be in it certainly can hurt things as well. He's been very effective. Zach Allen's just going to be effective against any type of hitter for the most part. But I'll go with what I feel is the best starting pitcher that will be available on the Friday slot, and I'll go with Gallen, and I'll expect 6 or 7 innings of 2-run baseball and give me 7 or 8 strikeouts, and you should be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I agree. His cost has come down since he was having that Cy Young worthy season and then kind of faded from that. So he could completely dominate. And the Diamondbacks are pretty secure
Mm-hmm.
in their spot right now, but he needs to get in work, like and they need to get in work as a team. They've still got some hurdles to clear, we'll put it.
Yeah.
My second starter is going to be Brandon Williamson at the Cardinals, and I'm throwing almost any pitcher against my Cardinals right now with that lineup. They're trotting out there. They suffered their 13th shutout loss of the season on Thursday afternoon in Milwaukee. Nolan Arenado shut down early. Wilson Contreras shut down early, among others. Tyler O'Neill, Nolan Gorman, Brendan Donovan, Dylan Carlson. Williamson hasn't worked very deep in his recent outings. He's kind of hitting that workload ceiling
Right.
in his rookie campaign, but the Reds are still mathematically alive in
Sure.
the NL wildcard standings. They're going to ask him to give him everything that he's got in this outing. It's been a solid rookie year for Williamson overall at age 25, a 4.25 ERA, 1.29 whip, 96 strikeouts through his first 111 major league innings. He can cruise against a bad lineup in a pitcher-friendly environment at Busch Stadium with some Ks and a good shot at a win if he's able to last long enough. And I think he can, or they're at least going to try it. This will have to be a 3-game sweep for the Reds, and even that might not be enough to get into that third NL wild card. But like your Mariners, they know what's laid out in front of them, and they can at least control part of their destiny. And I think Williamson kicks things off pretty well with a fairly dominant outing on Friday night in St. Louis.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. And look, just because it stinks, but St. Louis is just such a beatable lineup right now, especially with guys shut down, and there's no reason for them to take risks. Positives and stuff like Jordan Walker and like the like for the long term, but it is definitely a very beatable
It's
lineup.
soccer
And
season.
yes, it is. It is soccer
and,
season
and
in St.
almost hockey season.
I don't know if you're going to love hockey season this year, if I'm being honest with you, Drew Silva.
No,
But
no.
speaking of beatable lineups, I'm going to go with, we've talked a lot about some negative stuff with the A's. We're going to do it one last time, the last time that we'll be able to talk about it. I'm going to go with Chase Silseth against that A's lineup. Now, Silseth hasn't been great over the last couple of outings. In fact, he hasn't gone even 4 innings in those starts, and he's given up 7 runs over exactly 7 innings. But he was pitching well before that. He had that awesome start against it's awesome start against the Mariners in August, where he threw 7 innings and struck out 12. I think he's got the stuff and the command to be successful today. I wouldn't expect fantasy fireworks, but if you can pair him with a Means, if you could pair him with a Gallen, I think he's going to give you a great chance to pick up a win against probably the worst lineup and just overall build of a team I've ever seen, if we're just being completely honest with each other. Very, very beatable. I'll go with Silseth for this final start.
I like it. And yeah, I mean, the optimizer, talking about like optimizer picks, it likes the Giants again, going against Lance Lynn, maybe target some of their left handed bats. I could dig a red stack against the Cardinals too. Ellie De La Cruz has come to life again, and his price hasn't totally matched up to it again, but he could go nuts on Friday in St. Louis. Sean Murphy sticks out, Willie Castro, Mike Talkman. You mentioned a Cubs stack. I'd consider him as well.
So thanks, guys, so much for tuning into the Fantasy Fire and Ice podcast. You can follow me at Twitter on Crawford_MILB. I said those wrong, but you know what I meant. And you can follow Drew at Drew Silva. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.